Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome to the stage the President of Ohio Christian University and Ohio Faith and Freedom Chair, Dr. Mark Smith.
Good morning. There are few people in life that are able to get things done. I have watched in the state of Ohio as Governor John Kasich has taken a $8 billion deficit and turned it around to a $2 billion surplus. I've watched as he has replaced every job that we had lost under Governor Strickland with 360,000 new jobs. I've watched Governor Kasich as he has also worked from principle Matthew 25 in reaching out to the poor and extending a hand and offering a cup of cold water. Ronald Reagan was my hero in the first time I got into politics. Ronald Reagan was known, and I write books and study leadership across our nation. And one of the characteristics of Ronald Reagan, he was able to do 3 or 4 key things to move our nation forward. With our governor's initiative on 3rd grade reading, where 95.8% of our 3rd graders now can read, with his work on the economy, with his work in extending a hand to the poor, we have now a candidate, I hope, for the 2016 presidential race. Governor John Kasich is with us today. Would you welcome him?
Thank you. Listen, I got to tell you a story. I kind of been rolling around in my head here for the last couple days what I wanted to say here today, but when I was a little boy, probably in about the 4th grade, I was a Catholic, and I would go to church on Sunday, and I saw all these kids, these altar boys, and I thought, boy, you know, that'd be kind of a cool thing to do. So they told me I had to learn about 100 pages of Latin, which I did over the course of about a week, and I qualified, and I got to be an altar boy. I remember my first Mass. And I did it for a number of years. I went to public school, but I was, kind of deeply involved in the church. And then around the 9th or the 10th grade, one Sunday, the commentator, and I don't know how many of you know what the commentator is, but it's the person that stands at the podium and does readings and leads the people and announces the hymns and everything. The commentator didn't show up, so the pastor of the church said, hey, get out of those clothes, go put on that polyester jacket you have and go down there and lead the folks. So I got there, I got up on the podium, and I could see my mother sitting out there, and she started to get up wondering what the heck I was doing. I said, Mom, it's okay. And I got up and I was part of that service, and I did that for a number of years. Now, I don't remember whether I was a junior or a senior, but one Sunday we were doing this, and one of the things I wouldn't do was sing. I mean, it was tough enough. I'm in a public school. All my friends are watching me, and I just didn't want to sing. So we got to the closing hymn, and I announced the closing hymn, and the organ started to play, and the priest was coming down off the altar, and nobody was singing. And I shouted, stop the organ. And the organist stopped playing, and I looked at the people, and I said, why do you go to church? Do you go here to be a bump on the log? You know, the Lord loves singing, and he particularly loves the closing hymn. Would you pick up those prayer books and turn to page 48? Organist, go ahead. And the priest is just looking at me like, what is this guy doing? So the organ plays, a few more people sing, and then that's the end. So I'm walking off the podium, and a little old lady walked up to me, and she said, young man, I love to sing in church. And I particularly love to sing the closing hymn. The next time, would you please give us the right page that it is on, okay? And it's been that way throughout most of my lifetime. You know, as a kid, as a young man in the church and in my life, I felt the Lord. He didn't speak to me, send me an email or phone call, but I felt him. But like many, many young people, the Lord became a rabbit's foot for me. Pull it out on test day, pull it out on election day. Come on, Lord, I got the rabbit's foot. And then in 1987, Michael Novak, the great theologian, talks about life as a vale of tears. And in 1987, a severe storm hit my life and threatened to wash me away. I wrote a book about this. It's called Every Other Monday, and many churches, groups throughout the country have used this book. When that happened and that storm hit, I wasn't sure how I was going to survive. I reached out and I clung to all I knew. And I said, God, I don't know what's going on here. And a minister showed up. And we talked. And he said to me, where do you stand with the Lord? As I buried my mother and father, I reflected on it. And he said to me, there's a window of opportunity right now for you. Your hurt and your pain will disappear, but you have an opportunity to figure out who you are and where you are. And I started at ground zero. Is there such a thing called God? Does God love me? Does he know my name? Will he answer me? Did Jesus really live on the earth? Was he really the Son of God? And I tore it all apart. No more rabbit's foot for me. No more rabbit's foot. I got to get to the bottom line, and either I believe it or I don't. That was 28 years ago. For 28 years, not quite like Jacob, I've wrestled with it all. And the more I wrestle, the stronger I get. The more I wrestle, the stronger the foundation that I'm trying to build my house upon. I didn't come here for politics. Ralph Reed asked me to come here. I was in Utah the other day doing an interview with a young woman. And she said, sometimes you talk about faith. A lot of people don't like you when you talk about faith. She said, why do you do it? I said, I'll let you in on a little secret. The storms of life will come. It's inevitable. How's your house built? The Lord is there to be with you, to support you, to give you strength. Over the last 28 years, I've been set free. People say, oh, John Kasich, he takes positions. Sometimes we don't understand it. I'll tell you what the Lord's done for me. Confidence, strength, and worldly criticism doesn't matter a whole lot to me. You see, I know that the role that I have to play on earth, to lift people, to realize that all those who are made of the image of the Lord need to be upheld. We know we need to love our enemies. Boy, that's a hard one. We know we have to be humble. We know we have to stand for the poor and the bereaved and the widowed. God bless those people in South Carolina. They're playing for the larger game, I believe, just like I am. I have a mission. And I have a role on this earth, but I'm trying to prepare myself for the world that's yet to come. One of my heroes, Dallas Willard, he said, as you live your life on earth, are you prepared to run 5 cities for the Lord in the kingdom yet to come? I talk to a lot of young people. You know what I tell them? You have a gift. You're made special. There's nobody like you. You don't have to believe what I'm saying. And by the way, I don't believe in shoving my views down anybody's throat. I know that I got a roadmap. C.S. Lewis in a book I was just reading last night said he can't even live up to his own principles. And I don't either. I'm a failed guy. But what I know is every day I have a new opportunity. But what I tell these young people are you have gifts. They're different and they are unique to you. The key to life is to unwrap those gifts, whatever they may be, and use those gifts to change the world, to make the world a better place. And you can tell people about that handbook. That handbook wasn't here to tell us what we shouldn't do. That handbook that the Lord's given us has told us about the way to lead a successful and meaningful life. And his blessings come, in my opinion, from reading that handbook. My life, I've been struck by lightning since the day they called me to that podium to be a commentator in that church. I was elected to the legislature at 26 years of age. My mother and father couldn't believe it. They didn't even live in Ohio. In 1982, at the age of 30, I got a chance to go to Washington and work with Ronald Reagan and so many other great people. I became the chairman of the budget committee. My dad carried mail on his back. My mother's mother couldn't speak English. My father's father was a coal miner. And Johnny Kasich is in Washington. I became the budget committee chairman and was one of the architects of the balanced budget. We paid down debt, we lifted people, the economy grew. I served on the defense committee, putting the resources in so that America can be strong. And it needs to be strong today. And then I left. I just left. I said it was time to leave. And I wrote books. And I worked in business. And I traveled. I couldn't believe I was on Fox. You remember me? I was a big star. You remember. But I got a calling, folks. And I've been telling them repeatedly. Jonah didn't want to go to Nineveh. But when you're called, in whatever way you sense it, you got to go to Nineveh. So I became governor. First guy to beat an incumbent in 36 years. I had never even run statewide. How does this happen? The state was about dead. People were getting crushed and losing hope. Not today. We're growing jobs, the most important thing. But as we grow jobs, we leave no one behind. If you're mentally ill, we're not locking you up in prison. If we can avoid it, we want to treat you. We want you to be on your feet to live your God-given purpose. I've been criticized for this, by the way. I've been criticized for this. The drug addicted, they could be in your family. Get them treated and get them on their feet to live their God-given purpose. Okay? You're working poor. You're working poor. We want you to get decent health care. And guess what? We don't want you to be poor. We want you to graduate from poor. If you're a minority, we're going to include you and we're going to lift you. If you have a son or a daughter who's autistic, you're going to get insurance. We're not going to bankrupt you. I won in Ohio 86 out of 88 counties, 64% of the vote, 26% of African Americans, 60% of women, and 51% of union households, with one of the largest victories in the history of our state. Why did it happen? Hope's returned. But there's another thing that's happened. We haven't been able to do it all, but everyone is respected. Everyone is made in the image of the Lord. Everyone has to be given an opportunity. Everyone. That's what has to happen in America. And this tragedy that has all of us crying and many bleeding represents a vicious division that can be healed. It can be healed. America can be healed. You just have to get back to the basics. You know, as a kid, the son of a mailman, my mother and my father would always say, Johnny, you can be anything that you want to be. That's the American dream. Anybody, black, white, yellow, red, doesn't matter. Everyone has a chance to live their dream and fly. It's all about hope. It's all about unity. It's all about lifting people. It's about showing them the better and the kinder way. And so that everyone even understands the critical value of personal responsibility and resilience and empathy and family, the cornerstone, and faith. We've done it in Ohio. It's a big state. It's an important state. I'm here to tell you it can be done in America. Whatever you should desire. Don't fracture, don't divide, give hope, unify, lift everyone. That's a formula, in my opinion, for strengthening the beautiful and precious United States of America, because when we lift all of us as individuals, we come together as part of a beautiful, beautiful mosaic to form the most hopeful, important, and greatest leadership country in the history of the world, the United States of America. God bless you and thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome the President of the American Alliance for Jews and Christians, Rabbi Daniel Lapin.